Good morning, everybody. It's Christian from Serene Education with the 4 majors news update for the 27th of November 2012. Hi guys, hope you had a great day yesterday. Not a lot of movement yesterday to start with. A lot of price consolidating. If you look at the hourly here on the euro against US dollar, we spent more time going sideways yesterday and not breaking the the Friday highs. And we had a bit of a spike towards the end of play last night. At the start of the Asian session, price pretty much pulled back, and then this morning after the Tokyo Open we saw price heading on its little way to the upside into this morning's European Open. So what has it been doing? Well, clearly the weekly's got a nice bullish engulfing candle. We'd like to see price continue on the upside, and as long as it maintains above the all-important price support and resistance level here, where the institution moving average acted as support before we saw that breakout. Now, the past week or so, we've seen a lot of momentum pushing it higher, and in doing so, she's broken all these points here. What I have done is I've taken the low that we had in July to the current high that we've seen recently in September, and I've drawn a fib retracement area on here. And you can see how I use these particular tools to govern where I want to see price moving if and when these areas have been broken. Near term, the 23.6 was a prior support and resistance level. Then we saw price breaking that all-important 1285 mark, which happened to be the support and resistance level here, as price bounced on a number of occasions on the institutional. That acts as support, recently resistance, and back again up to support again. So as long as it maintains above 1290, the 23.6, then we should be looking for price to head on to the upside. What we can do, though, to see how far she is now in extension, remember this has been falling, and now we've had a pullback, and the pullback has failed now at the underside of the 1285 mark, which we would like to see in as resistance to see price continue its merry way to the downside. That's failed to materialize, and price is now broken higher. So how far is this pullback? You can either take, we've got the long-term fib answer from the low in July to the current high, but you can also take this start of this downtrend. You can see price has been moving lower from this high over here to the current low. So if you want to see a fib retracement, see where price is trading on the upside, you can do exactly the same here. So what you can see is the major fib. You can make this nice and strong. Let's just do that so you guys can see. There we go. That's the major ones, and now the intermediate ones, or the intraday ones you could use, are the high to the current low. You can see the 23.6, the 38, which would have been a nice one to get above, which would also been above the institution, which would have been a great indicator of 1285 here. Get above that and hit towards 50. Break above the 50 towards the 61.8. Stay above the 61.8 as it's done recently. You can see the daily yesterday, very indecisive. However, nonetheless, above that area or that fib retracement here at 61.8. And in doing so, you can see this morning on the European session open, price is starting to rally to the upside. A lot of news. We've got apparently the Greeks, the Euro group has come out with a deal for Greece. Not a really great. Well, it's a deal nonetheless. Is it kicking the can down the road? Yeah, maybe, but it's still one nonetheless. And what it's doing now, as you can see, price has now found a bit of support above a prior support and resistance level back here at the early end and the start of November. So indecisive, you can see that the actual indecisiveness coming at the top end of the candle. Okay, so a bit of positiveness now. It's still indecisive, but still positive because it's trading at the upper end of that 50% of that candle. And it's also coming above a price support and resistance level. So now intraday, we want to keep this level over here as our support. So intraday, we want to be aware that the 1296 needs to be our intraday support. And if that's the case, we want to see where price is likely to go to. Well, 61.8 is below us, okay, of this fib. So from the high to the current low, 61.8 is where we're trading in now. So what we can do now is add the 78.6 mark. If I can just get my... So I've added a 78.6, and you can see it now comes about the prior consolidated range at the high here that we saw back in early October. So that's not too far off, okay, not too far off from 32.05 on the way up. And you can see there's a lot of momentum here, and the CTC histogram is telling us we should be looking for nothing more than buying opportunities. So intraday, as long as price remains above the 1296 mark, then we should see price heading towards that 78.6. It's well overextended now, and because it's well overextended, that downside momentum that drove the market from these highs to the bottom here are clearly still not in favor to the downside, and that's the reason why we've had this major pullback. And the higher this pullback goes, the less momentum there is to drive it lower, which means that price will now move back up towards these prior highs, or reattempt these prior highs. So as it stands now, look towards the 76.6 mark, which is at the 1304 mark as a potential target for the foreseeable future as price heads to the upside. On to sterling. Let's have a look and see what's been happening on this particular pair. Yesterday, also very indecisive range. A lot of movements, however, at the top end of this bullish engulfing candle, and you can see that price yesterday actually pulled back all the way to the 1600 mark, and in doing so finding support, and then by the close of play last night on the US session, price had rebounded to the upside, falling or closing at the upper end of the candle wick, so on the top end of the 50% line of this candle. Okay, in doing so this morning on the Asian session, we've seen, or the European session open, we've seen price moving higher into the 50 period moving average. You can see quite clearly that price still hasn't actually been able to break the current high or yesterday's high, and for price to continue to the upside, we do need to see that happening sometime today on the market. So the 4-hour chart, you can quite clearly see indecisiveness, severe exhaustion. Prices pulled back to the major support and resistance level here in the shape of the 1600, nice psychological round number. Also on the 4-hour, the institution moving average, and in doing so, we saw a lot of wicks. You see a lot of indecisiveness here, and this happening around a time when we got news that Merv King was going to be replaced by the Canadian, well, the current Canadian banking governor, and you can see how the indecision came in on. We had 12 hours of indecisiveness yesterday, starting at roughly 10 a.m. in the morning, right through until about 6 o'clock GMT last night, and then price started to move to the upside. And now, as it currently stands, we are testing yesterday's high. Okay, or not yesterday's. I think it's presumably Friday, if I'm not mistaken, the 23rd. So testing those highs, and in order for price to continue to the upside, we do need to see that being broken as soon as possible. So you can see the histogram remains blue on this time frame. All our moving averages below price, including the most important one being the institution. So as it stands now, to see price moving higher, we've got to see that area being broken. If you want to take the all-time higher at the 16300 to the current low that we saw the bounce occurring, and if I draw that in thick so you can see where the major points of contact are for this intraday trade, there we go. You can see quite clearly the one over here just above the 1600. The next one will be 1607, and ultimately back up towards that all important area here at 61.7, which will be our next target. So you can see our intraday targets have been reached. Now it's above that one, acting as support. That support, then we're going to want to see price moving higher towards the next level here at 50%, get above 50%, then up towards 61.8, above 61.8, look at the 78.6 mark, intraday, 78.6, you can put that in, apply, there we go, and then all the way back up towards 16,300. So you can see I'm getting my targets, as long as it maintains above the institution intraday, as long as my histogram is telling me the sentiment is positive, we should be looking for further ups, and it's staying above the 1600, that's going to be our support. And all that's below me, then I should be looking for highs. On to the Swiss franc. Let's have a look and see what's been happening here. After all that negativity in last week, we've seen price dive back below the 940, which happened to be a major resistance level, and then we had a breakout, and we thought it was going to be support. That failed to materialize, and that negativity really drew price down to the underside of the institution, and doing that, pulling it back into the 940 range, and sure enough, price has fallen drastically after that. It's now come unstuck at the prior support and resistance area here at the 930 mark, and in doing so pulling back at the underside, which now is resistance. You can see price has fallen this morning, however still in a very indecisive range, but as long as it maintains below 930, then we should be looking for price to continue to the downside towards that 920 mark. So intraday we want to see price continuing that. You can see the 4-hour chart is still telling me I should be looking for negative sentiment. The major uptrend has been broken. We went below the institution, and in doing so price fell drastically back below that 930 mark, so I can see that price needs to remain below 930 now intraday for me to be looking for further shorting opportunities. A lot of indecision, guys, on our 4-hour chart here. You can see the last 4 hours very indecisive, a huge range, however very little decisiveness in that candle. We want to see decision, and as long as that decision still remains below 930, ultimately we should be looking for those targets to the downside. 920 should be our next target. You can see price support and resistance levels through here. It's trading at the underside, so look for that price. The only thing that's going to really change the sentiment of here is if we get a nice bullish engulfing candle above 930. But until then, we should be looking for shorting opportunities or negativity. And there on my hourly, as long as it stays below that area, we should be looking for price to continue to the downside. You can see how indecisive the last couple of hours have been on this particular, the US dollar against the Swiss franc. Very indecisive, guys. A lot of speculative trading to start with this morning, and as long as it maintains below that 930 level, then we should still only looking for negativity. Okay, histogram very much red on either side, 1 or 2 areas of blue, but then you'll be trading into the institution, which is a no-no. But as long as it maintains below the 930 mark, look for that negativity towards that 920 below us. Last pair of the day, the US dollar Japanese yen. Let's have a look and see what's been happening on this particular pair. A lot of indecisive the last couple of days, and sure enough, yesterday we had the bullish engulfing candle, which took us back to 23.6. I mentioned 23.6 would be our support area yesterday, and sure enough, she's moved into it, and now she's found support. She's actually consolidated this area here, the 23.6. I took the current low to that high that we saw just recently, and price has now pulled back to that level. As long as 23.6 remains here as support or below price, that will act as a support, and as long as there's support there, there's more likely for price to build on that. Remember, we are in a very strong uptrend at the moment now. We've seen the US dollar move quite nicely against the Japanese yen over the past couple of months, and as long as she maintains the momentum, she would still head up towards that magical area here I mentioned, which is the 8400 mark, which is our weekly and monthly high. So building on that sentiment, so intraday we want to keep the 82 mark as our support. So on our 4-hour chart, etc., on our hourly, the 82 needs to remain below price, and you can quite clearly see there it's marked out quite nicely in this dotted line, and you can see that price fell into here, and negativity going into it. You can see that we had two parts of our histogram, of our strategy, and the histogram remained blue, and as long as that 8200 mark and the 23.6 remained below price, you can see that price actually built up the last 4 hours since I closed this morning from the Tokyo Open to the just short of the European session open. Nice bullish engulfing candle on support, and you can see prices now moved higher. As long as it maintains above 8200, then we should be looking for upside movement intraday. So on our hourly, we should be targeting potentially the previous swing low, which is not too far off, guys, here at the 8240 mark. Get above that, then head up towards that 8280 mark that we've currently seen as our high. So on my my hourly, institution below price, clear bounce on the 23.6 here, fib, and you can see where she's trading now. Very indecisive. You can see the last 4 hours she's battling to the hourly candles. There's clearly a resistance level above price as we speak here at the 8230 mark. Got to see a break above that, otherwise it's just going to range here. And if she ranges and she falls again, she's going to form a low, another swing low. And if she does that, then she's going to head back towards that price support and resistance level at 23.6. And she could very well break it, but we have the institution below price, so we want to see price giving us a signal. Bullish engulfing to the upside would target to the near future towards that 8280, 8290 mark. Bearish engulfing here would confirm that we should be looking back towards a price support and resistance level here at 8190, and a break below that would see price continuing to fall for the foreseeable future. That's it for today, guys. Please be following the rules of this strategy to follow each one individually. The actual template is meant to be very, very mechanical. There are 4 parts to this template, and all 4 parts need to work together in order for you to get a genuine buy or sell signal. Also, on top of that, you need to apply your simple trading techniques, support and resistance levels, long and short, to give you an idea of what the price is likely to do. And please back it up with sound management. Okay, you might have the best template in the world, but if you don't back it up with sound money management or great money management, risk to reward ratio, then it's worth nothing. Okay, very, very important. Other than that, keep it simple. Have a look at the news today, see if there's anything out there that's really going to move price. We have a lot of news this morning. 1 or 2 news reports for the GDP, revised GDP quarter-on-quarter figure. That's going to be quite important for sterling. That's for the Great Britain market. They're expecting no change there. If it comes out less or higher, if the GDP is better, then it's going to be quite good for the sterling. If it comes out lower than the forecast, then watch out, we could see some negativity. Other than that, we have some FOMC members talking this afternoon, or this morning, early morning at 11:30 GMT. Then we have a lot of news for the US market. Core durable goods month of orders. We have we have Mr. Bernanke talking at 1:30. So expect a lot of speculativeness before and after the news, after he speaks. And later this afternoon we have the CB Consumer Confidence Index. So that's going to be quite important to see what happens with the consumer, where all that confidence lies with the consumers. Very, very important to see what's happening going into Christmas. Other than that, please be aware of all these news announcements and factor them into your trading. Okay. Otherwise, have a fantastic trading day, and I'll see you first thing tomorrow morning. Until then, trade serenely.